Hi, I'm Dan, and in this video we're going to take a look at helping someone on the forum who wants to recreate a layout in Elements. So Peter here has got his website in Classic and is kind of wondering how he could rebuild this in Elements. So I've gone ahead and located his website, and what we're going to do, we're going to rebuild this section because I think that's specifically the bit he calls out, and it's quite good because it will show a lot of techniques on how to build these columns. And these rows of items. So let's open Elements and we'll do a new project. We're going to start with, we could obviously pick one of these pre-built ones, but we're going to start with an empty project. And let's go to the components. And the first thing I'm going to use is a container. These are always good starting blocks. And I am just going to add some spacing to the top and bottom here so we can see what we're doing. That looks good. Let's pull that out a little bit. Now, what we need next, let's go here. We've got these three columns, so I'm going to want a grid. So I'm going to drop a grid into here, and let's go to the columns and rows. And this sets how many columns we can have, and at the moment it's set to 4, and we want 3 because that's the same as Peter's or Steve's site. And let's have a look. So yeah, so we've got these 3, so probably we want to give these a background. Multiple ways to do this, but we could drop in a container on this one. And then let's add a background color. Now you can't see the background color because of the drop zone, so we need to add some content in here. So let's just add a bit of text. Right, perfect. So now you can see we've got our container, then we've got our grid with our 3 columns, and we've dropped another container in here to style the background color, and then I've got my text. So let's duplicate this, and then we've got our three rows, and I'm just going to let's have a look now. Let's start adding some spacing on this middle container here. I'm going to add some padding to bring it away from the edge. So a bit of breathing room like we have here. And Steve's got his name at the top. So let's start with that. And we want this to be centered. So there's multiple ways we can do this, but I'll just use the text center option. And below this he has an image, so let's drop in an image here, and below this he's got a block of text. Let's copy this text, and then we will paste in another text component, or drop in another text component, and let's paste in the text there. Good, this is starting to shape up. Now each of these items has space in between, so what we can do on this container, I can go to the content layout and I can set a gap. You could go to each of these items and set spacing on them. So I could add some padding here, but it only does this one, and now I've got to redo it here. So it's not the most efficient way of doing it. So like I said, what I'll do, select the container and then set the gap. So if I set 5, this just adds a gap of 5 between each item. So already we're starting to build up this layout. Let's change the background color here because it's a lighter color for this one. That's looking good. I'll just go one lighter on there. Perfect. You could obviously set up custom colors. I'm just using the color in this theme to build this. I'm also going to make the site a little bit wider as well. So if we go to the theme studio and then I go to screens, I'm going to switch on the XL size, and that will give us another breakpoint. And I can pull the site out a bit more. So this gives us a bit more room. Steve's site goes full width, and we could do that. We could do that by taking the grid out of the container, and now that goes full width. I'm not really a fan of that. I think it should be in we should have these breakpoints in this space on either side. I kind of like it like that, but you know, that's just to show you how you would do that. You could take that grid out of the container if you wanted it to run full width. So so we've got that. Now I got the image. I see the image here Steve's using, and I did notice the site was quite slow to load. So when I downloaded this image from his site, I noticed it's 13.4 meg. So this is something you've got to watch. You want to resize your images because this is way too large. I found a photo of him on his about page. That's 4.1 megs. That's still too large. So what I would suggest doing is compressing them. You can use any compressor. I use Squash. That's the one we make, and it's really handy. You can just drop the images into it. Then you can resize. You can do other adjustments like set the format and things, and you can batch images. It's really handy and convert the format of them. So anyway, I'm going to set this to 50% in size and 50% JPEG quality, and then let's export the image. There we go, the little sound to know that it's done, and that's now 396k, which is fine. I'm happy with that because it's still a huge image as well, really nice and big. I could go even smaller than that, but you know, this is just a demo, so let's we'll just call that Steve. And to get resources into Elements, as you know, you just drag and drop them in. I downloaded some of the other resources here we might need, so let's drag those in as well. So that's all good. I can now delete those because when you add resources to Elements, they get stored in the project. So you don't need to worry about references on disk. I can easily share this project when I'm done, and anyone that opens it will have the resources. So what I'm going to do now, we've got this image here, I'm going to drop Steve into it. That's looking good, but on his site, it's a circle. So let's go to the borders and we'll set this to full, 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 and full. Actually, probably what we want to do, because it's, let's see if we can change the aspect ratio actually, because we want it to be square because that's an oblong image. So what we can do is 1, 1, and that makes it square. Yeah, and that moves around the image, so we could, yeah, let's bring him down a little bit there. But you could play with this and crop your image properly, but this is like a quick way to do it if you just dropped an image in, because otherwise, you know, it's a quick way to get it to be square. So little tips there. The image is looking a little bit big, so we can change the sizing. Let's set that to 75%. But now it is not centered. So what we need to do, if I select the image again, we go to spacing, enable the spacing, and we need to set margins. Now this is a bit weird in CSS, but it's a little trick, and once you know it and remember it, it's really handy. We need to set both margins to auto, and that tells the browser to center it. Bit strange, but that's the way it works. And conversely, if you can switch off one of these to get it to align the other way. So if I do this, you can see it aligns there. So it's a handy little trick, and it's just the way CSS works. It's weird, but once you know, you know. Okay, so this is really starting to shape up this this bit here that we're copying. Yeah, we could make that even smaller. Let's set that to 50%. Yeah. All right, good. Now we could do this section here. This has got a background, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to throw in another container and pop the text in that container. Now it's filling the container, and what I can do, I can right click and navigate up a level, but you can also see this little breadcrumb down here to help you navigate up. So I'm on the text and I want the wrapper container, and I can just click that, and now we've selected the container. And let's change the background of this to darker. That looks pretty good, and we're going to want some padding on this, so spacing and some padding. Sorry, some padding top and bottom. Not that much. We only need a little bit. 3. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, that's looking good. Let's increase this, change this. We want this to be uppercase, so we set that to uppercase. we can increase the weight, and we obviously want to increase the size as well, so I do that here. Probably not that big. Let's go there. And this has got curved corners as well, so let's select our container and go to borders, and we'll set 2XL, I think, on each corner. Pretty good. You can play around with this, obviously, and get it looking how you want. Because I'm not copying this exact pixel for pixel, you'd have to spend a lot longer, and it would be boring to watch me really really fiddle around with this to match it 100%. We need this text white as well. There we are. So this is looking pretty good. So we've copied this layout. And these are pretty simple to do as well. What I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this over into here. Yeah, the top there. What we can also do, sometimes it's good to name your name the nodes in the tree so you know what's what. So I could call this one about Steve, then I know when I'm looking through this, everything in here is this one's about Steve. So this one is buy the book, I think. Yes, so we can say buy this book. Now I thought this would be a good one to do because this has got a list of items, a list of images. So I did drag in a few images here. So what we can do, if I just drop in the image there, then let's get one of these in here. So yeah, again, we just need to size this. Now the content layout, again, we want to set the gap to 5, so we've got the space there. Now these, you could put these in a flex to have a little bit more control, so which I think is a good idea. Sizing, let's set that to 50%, and the spacing, I'm going to set that to auto. There we are. So it's in the middle, and I can just I can set a link on this, so which, yeah, I'm sure he has done. Yeah, he's disabled right click on his images, which means I can't right click on here and copy the link. So I'd have to go to the link. Yeah, the right click to stop saving, because he's obviously put image protection in here because he doesn't want people taking these images. But as you saw, I easily took these images because I have developer mode switched on, and then you can just right click, inspect elements, and then we can go and look at the sources, and here are all the images. So the right clicking to hide, to try and protect images really doesn't work. It feels like your images are going to be safe, but they're absolutely not. Yeah, that's just an aside, so I never bother. We do have that feature in here because I know some people like to use it. It does prevent them from being easily downloaded, but it's not. People can always get them if they want, because you could also screenshot as well, you know. Anyway, right, so let's duplicate this, and let's put another image in there, and one more in there, and one more there. Right, so we've got our list building up here, and I can select multiple items, and we could change this a little bit if we want them. We could put in pixel values here, so I could say 300 pixels, or we could go smaller. I could, yeah, about, maybe he's got them at about 150. Yep, so you can set the pixel size. Now, I did talk about adding a flex in here just to show you how the flex works. So let's add a flex, and then I'm going to add these images into the flex, and they've all pushed together. And what I can do, we can set the gap on the flex as well, which is great. But we can also, with a flex, you can set how things are displayed. So there, I've easily changed it to going horizontally rather than vertically. So let's put that back. But that's kind of handy to be able to do this, because then I could take this flex out of here, and we can have a list down here and I can add to it, you know. So it's the flex is flexible. But let's pop that back in there and we'll switch it to column. So this is nice. Our content is down the bottom here, but we want it up the top on this container. So what we do is we just we would select this here, and we would want to make this the same. So content layout, align it to the top. Now, why isn't that aligning to the top? Oh, because we added padding to this one. So we just need to add padding to this as well. Let's have a look. Spacing, we've got 10 on each. So let's add the spacing there. 10, 10, boom. So now this is really taking shape. He's actually got this one as lowercase. I think that's probably a mistake there. So, but we'll leave it as uppercase. But you could easily change it in here. We could just say actually none. Okay, and then we've got this area here. Again, this is built up of flexes and containers. So what we'll do, let's set our spacing here to 10 to match the other ones, and we'll take this container, and I think it's this one here. Yeah, there we are. That is the very nice thing about this as well. You can drag from the node tree into the editor, and you can drag from the editor into the node tree to move things around. Really handy. Let's delete that. We also need to set this to appear at the top again on our content layout. And what's that? Latest news. Boom. So now this is really starting to take shape. What I'm going to do, I'm going to drop in a container here. Let's get that in there. And we want this is we'll just set this to a lighter color. Yeah, we'll set that to that. And then here we've got an icon and some text, which we could put in a flex here. So, and how we did these horizontally, as I showed you with these, that's what we're going to do here. Let's drag in some text, and we want a PNG or a SVG, I think. Let's put that in the flex. So these are both in the flex and they're on top of each other, but what we really want is we want them in a row. Boom, so now they appear side by side like this. And let's copy some of this text. So yeah, and then we could make that a link. I'm just going to link this to the home page just so it appears as a link. We want a little bit of padding on here, spacing. So again, I'll add 3 maybe. Boom, so that brings it out, gives us a little bit of space. And then we need to add our icon. I'll add that in there. And the sizing's a little bit big. I'll go smaller on that. And what we could do, that's quite small. When you can't see these things, what you can do, you can hide the titles up the top here to help you see all the selection. And there's also a show outlines option as well, which is quite handy if you want to see how things are built, what you've got there. So let's switch that back. Let's have a go at putting I think there's a bit of a bug there. I think that should be circular for him. For that, let's drop in a container and set the background to red. So I've already got red color set up there. And let's drop in the icon. Now this might be tricky because I don't know to set the sizing on this. That's auto. Let's set that to full. And then we'll figure out how to make this smaller. So we've got that curved and our icon is centered. So let's select the container, and what I think we need to do, spacing, let's set that to auto. Boom, there we go. That's looking good. So now the we could add a little bit of padding on. Let's hide the titles. Could add a little bit of padding on that. Boom. And let's add that there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Flex, we need to work with this flex. So we need a bit of a gap too, just to bring that away. And we want to align the content. Items, let's have a look. Align, start. No, I think that's maybe justify, start, item. Okay, what we need to do is actually on this auto set this to 0 at the top, and now we have that aligned. Let's give this container some curves on there. Let's go large. Let's go large, and we want the gap on here to bring that apart. Nice. Let's call this card, and then we can duplicate this, and then we've got those extra cards. So we have recreated this layout. I've done it a little bit differently there. If we do that, then it's more like Steve's original site because it goes full width. But as I said before, I kind of like it in the container there, so it brings it in a little bit. Yeah, so that's basically how you would recreate this layout. There's obviously, you can go ahead and finesse it some more. We could add, because these have got a bit of a transform on them, and we could certainly add some rollovers and effects to these. We could transform these so that they scale a little bit. Oh, let's put that at 100. If I select them all, transform, hover, end, and let's put it at 105. Yep, and on the vertical 5px. Yeah. Or maybe we'll just make them. Yeah, okay, let's view this in the browser. Looking nice, and now they've got a little hover on them, which is kind of cool. We could also, what we could do, where's the filters here? On hover, the saturation, they could start at 0, and then when you hover on them, the saturation could go to 100. That's quite nice. Yeah, so anyway, you could go on refining and improving this, but really I think they showed you a lot of the techniques to do this layout, which would easily allow you to make layouts like this and layouts like this. You know, it's really, once you start understanding how the containers and flexes work and how you can lay things out, it really opens up. You suddenly realize you can build any layout you want. So, okay, I hope that was useful, and I will upload this sorry, I'll upload this file to along with this video to the forum, so you can download it and have a play around, and it gives you something to start with. All right, thanks for watching this one, and I will see you again soon. Cheers, bye.